Night falls slowly over Washington, D.C. on April 14th, 1865. And the air feels different, lighter somehow. Like the city itself has finally exhaled after holding its breath for 4 brutal years. The Civil War is ending. The bloodiest chapter in American history is closing. And across this capital city, people are celebrating in the streets. But you are not celebrating. You have one job tonight, one single responsibility that towers above everything else. You are the assigned bodyguard of the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, and tonight he is going to the theater. Ford's Theater, a packed house, a comedy called Our American Cousin. Lincoln loves the theater, always has. It's one of the few things that quiets the noise in his mind, the relentless weight of a nation at war. And tonight, for the first time in years, that weight is lifting. You saw it in his face earlier in the day. He was almost smiling, joking with his staff, talking about the future, about rebuilding, about what comes next. He deserves this night. You tell yourself that as you escort him through the streets of Washington toward the theater. The crowds press in when they recognize him, tall, gaunt, unmistakable in that stovepipe hat. People cheer, children wave, and Lincoln, weary as he is, acknowledges them with a slow nod. You arrive at Ford's Theater just after 8 in the evening. The place is electric. Hundreds of people already packed inside, the hum of conversation filling every corner. Word moves fast that the president is here, and when Lincoln appears in the presidential box above the stage, the audience rises. Applause thunders through the building. The band strikes up Hail to the Chief. It's the kind of moment that makes you proud of this country, proud of what's been preserved. You help him settle in. The presidential box is draped in American flags. A portrait of George Washington looks down from above the balcony rail. It feels almost sacred in here. Mary Todd Lincoln is at her husband's side, as always. 2 other guests join them, a young officer named Henry Rathbone and his fiancée. The play begins. The audience laughs, and you take your position outside the door. This is your post. This hallway, this door, this simple wooden entrance is the line between the president and everything outside it. You are the last defense. You know this. It's not complicated. Stand here. Let no one in without clearance. Stay alert. But the night drags on. The laughter from inside the theater drifts under the door. The play is funny. You can tell from the crowd's reaction. You hear Lincoln laugh once or twice, and something about that sound, that rare and genuine laugh from a man who has carried so much grief, makes the whole city feel a little more hopeful. And then you leave. Maybe it's the nearby saloon. Maybe it's a conversation that pulls you away. Maybe it's boredom or fatigue or simple human weakness. History has never been completely certain about where you went or why. What history does know is this. For a critical window of time, somewhere around 10 o'clock in the evening, the door to the presidential box is unguarded. No one standing watch, no one in the hallway, and somewhere in the shadows of Ford's Theater, a man has been waiting for exactly this moment. His name is John Wilkes Booth. If you passed him on the street, you might ask for his autograph, because Booth is not some unknown radical lurking in the fringes. He's one of the most famous actors in America. Handsome, charismatic, magnetic, the kind of man who commands a room the moment he walks into it. He knows this theater like his own home. The stagehands know him. The actors know him. Nobody questions why he's here. But Booth is not here to perform tonight. He is a Confederate sympathizer in the deepest sense, furious at the South's defeat, convinced that Lincoln is a tyrant, burning with the belief that one dramatic act can somehow reverse the outcome of 4 years of war. He has been planning this for months. Not just the assassination of Lincoln, but a coordinated attack on multiple members of the government, all on the same night. A decapitation strike against the Union leadership. And tonight, he has decided, is the night. Booth moves through the theater with the calm confidence of a man who belongs everywhere he goes. He climbs the staircase that leads to the upper level, to the hallway, to the presidential box. He reaches the door. No one stops him. He finds a small hole that has been drilled into the door, whether by Booth himself earlier that day or by someone else. And the entry point is there, just large enough to see inside. He watches through it. waits for the perfect moment. Down on the stage, the play is building toward one of its biggest laughs. The line is coming, a line the audience has been anticipating all evening, a punchline that will bring the house down. And the laughter will be so loud, so sudden, so all-consuming that it will swallow everything else. Booth knows this play. He knows exactly when that moment comes. The line lands, the audience erupts, and the door opens. Abraham Lincoln is leaning slightly forward in his chair, watching the stage, a rare smile crossing his tired face. He has no idea. None of them do. The laughter is still rolling through the theater when Booth raises a small Derringer pistol, a single-shot weapon, small enough to conceal in a coat pocket, and fires. This is one shot. The crack of the gun cuts through everything. For a single, surreal moment, people in the audience look up, confused. A noise from the presidential box. Was that part of the play? An actor dropping something? A prop gone wrong? Then they see the smoke. They hear Mary Todd Lincoln scream, and the confusion collapses into something primal and terrifying. Inside the box, Henry Rathbone launches himself at Booth. The two men struggle. Booth pulls a long knife and slashes Rathbone across the arm, a deep and savage wound, and breaks free of his grip. He moves to the front of the box and throws himself over the railing, dropping nearly 12 feet to the stage below. He catches his boot spur on the bunting as he falls. The landing is hard. His leg fractures. But he staggers upright, turns to face the screaming audience that now realizes exactly what has happened, and shouts, his voice an actor's voice, trained to carry, something Latin, something theatrical, something he had been rehearsing perhaps for years. Sic semper tyrannis, thus, always to tyrants, the motto of the state of Virginia. Then he runs. He limps across the stage, pushing past stunned actors and stagehands, out through a back door and into the dark streets of Washington, D.C., where a horse is waiting. And then he is gone. You return to find the presidential box in chaos. Lincoln is slumped in his chair, completely unconscious, breathing in shallow, terrible gasps. The bullet has entered the back of his skull at close range. Doctors rush up from the audience. There are several in attendance tonight, and they assess the wound quickly, their faces telling the story before any words do. He cannot be saved here. They lift the president, this tall and angular man who somehow seems even taller in death's approach, and carry him carefully down the stairs, out of Ford's Theater, and across 10th Street to a boarding house directly opposite called the Peterson House. They bring him to a small back bedroom. They lay him on a bed that is too short for his frame, and the vigil begins. All through the night, the most powerful men in America file in and out of that narrow room. Cabinet members, military officers. The vice president is notified. The Secretary of State has also been attacked tonight, stabbed in his home by a Booth conspirator, survived barely. The chaos is rippling outward from this single night in every direction. You stand somewhere nearby, understanding in full what has happened. There will be investigations. There will be questions. History will pick apart every detail of this night for 150 years and beyond. The name John Parker, the guard who was not at his post, will become a footnote that carries the full weight of consequence. Not because one man's absence caused everything, but because that absence removed the last obstacle between a killer and a president. Booth is not invincible. He is not superhuman. He walked through an unlocked door. Through the long night, Lincoln's breathing grows slower. The doctors can do nothing more than manage the inevitable. Mary Todd Lincoln weeps in the hallway, barely able to bring herself into the room, but unable to bear the sight of her husband diminished to this. At 7:22 in the morning of April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln takes his final breath. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton is said to have spoken the words that would define this moment for all of history. Now he belongs to the ages. The search for Booth lasts 12 days. He is finally cornered in a tobacco barn in rural Virginia, the barn surrounded by Union soldiers. The barn is set on fire. Booth refuses to surrender and is shot. Whether by a soldier or by his own hand remains debated. He dies a few hours later. The broader conspiracy unravels. Conspirators are arrested, tried, and executed. The nation mourns Lincoln in a way it had never mourned before and has rarely mourned since. But the question that history keeps returning to, the question that hangs over every account of that night. One is not about Booth's planning or Lincoln's schedule or the state of security in 1865. The question is simpler than all of that. What if the guard had stayed at the door? Because sometimes the largest moments in history don't turn on the grandest decisions. They don't turn on battles or speeches or the movement of armies. Sometimes history turns on something as quiet and ordinary as a man who got tired, got restless, got distracted, and walked away from a door for a few minutes. And in those few minutes, the world changed.